And for more on the elections, I'm joined now by Carl Meacham. He is the director of the Americas program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, a think tank in Washington, D.C. that focuses on foreign policy. Thank you. Welcome to our broadcast.
Hi, how are you?
Candidate Marina Silva, if elected, would make history by being the first Afro-Brazilian president. But of course, she has to get by the incumbent, Dilma Rousseff, the former Marxist guerrilla who was tortured under the dictatorship in Brazil. And then, of course, there's a third candidate. He's from the right and in third place, but has been moving up in the polls. What are you thinking of the election at this point?
Well, it's a tight election. The three candidates right now are sort of, trying to consolidate their base. President Dilma Rousseff, since she's the sitting president, has an infrastructure, a campaign infrastructure that is very strong. She has behind her the fact that she is the sitting president, and she has a very strong sort of framework, campaign framework. Marina Silva, who is the challenger, or the leading challenger up to a couple of weeks ago, she was leading in the polls. Now she's second, but they say that it's still very tight. I think she's doing the best that she can given the situation that she's in. She took advantage of a lot of the sympathy vote that existed as a result of the death of Eduardo Campos, who was her party's leader up until his tragic accident, airplane accident. So she took his place. And then there's Aécio Neves, who was, as you said, the candidate on the right, who is trying to make up as much ground as he can at the end here to try to get into the second round. He is not leading as far as the option is concerned. He's behind Marina Silva, but in these last days, he's trying to do the best he can in order to make up some ground and try to enter into the second round.
As you know, Brazil's economy is certainly stagnating, and the same party has ruled here for 12 years. People are tired. They want change in Brazil, but Rousseff has had a message lately that change can be worse. Is this working for her?
Well, you're faced with one having the option of what is known versus the option of what is unknown. There was an article that came out today and a couple of articles that have come out in the Brazilian press having to do with corruption, particularly as it relates to contracts that were given having to do with the production of the oil industry, and how there's been some money that has not been kept up with, that has gone to questionable people, but still within the government. That has been an issue lately. People question the honesty of some of the members of the president's government. That should probably play into some of these issues having to do with what is known versus the unknown. On the other hand, you have the fact that Marina Silva probably is a candidate that is less known as far as how she would govern, but because of the protests that have happened during the last year, because of the tragic death of Mr. Campos, and a lot of the issues having to do with the government having to sort of do better at providing services for a broader group of Brazilians, and the frustration of the Brazilian people, Ms. Silva sort of became sort of the conduit or the channel through which a lot of the anger and a lot of the outrage and that desire to have a government that provides better services for more people and faster. So again, as you've mentioned, it is basically a campaign between what is known or what we've seen with President Dilma versus what is unknown, but still basically the hope and the fact that this is a channel through which to demonstrate a lot of the frustration that Brazilians feel.
There are signs that the powerful establishment wants Rousseff out. Will this make a difference in the polls?
I think the establishment right now is sort of going back and forth. There's a lot of things that they know or feel that they would get with President Rousseff. But again, there's a lot of folks that want to make changes, not only and issues having to do with services or providing better services for a broader group of Brazilians. There's issues having to do with infrastructure and improving infrastructure. There's
Carl, I
issues
wanna
that
ask
have
you
to
one
do with
question quickly
education,
also.
providing better education for more Brazilians. And then there are many who feel that Brazil needs to make certain reforms because the economy is not doing that well, certain reforms to attract foreign business and foreign investment into Brazil, and that there's a need for regulatory reform in Brazil to do that.
One other question, too, about the World Cup quickly. How did this play into the election, do you feel like?
I think at the beginning, a lot of folks felt that since Brazil did not make it to the final, that it would have a bigger influence or impact on Dilma. It hasn't. Brazil did a good job in running the World Cup, and I think that's what ended up being sort of the outcome. But the issue that was the focus, which was why are we spending all this money on the World Cup when we should be spending it on more Brazilians or the betterment of services or betterment of Brazilians was an issue, but I don't believe that it is a decisive factor in the election on Sunday.
Carl Meacham, as always, we really appreciate your time and insight. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday.
Thanks for your invitation.